I've got some ideas for you today about unsolicited advice, the surprising cousin to criticism. Unsolicited advice. This is actually kind of hilarious when you think about it, because everybody loves to give it and hates to get it. Why is this the case? I think there's a few reasons for that. Number one, we know we're right. Think about it. It's not that we think we're right. We know we're right. And so whatever it is that we're thinking becomes the truth of life, the universe, and everything. That's the first problem. The second reason why we give unsolicited advice is really out of our heart. It's out of a genuine caring for other people. We do care about them. We love them. We want their life to be better. And so, of course, we need to fill them in with what the truth is. And that's whatever we think it is. That's the second reason why we all want to give unsolicited advice. And the third reason is a little selfish, but I think you might relate to this. We really insist secretly at some level that the world would operate according to our own expectations and desires. We really want things to go the way we want them to go. And if it's not going that way, we think something's wrong and we have to intervene. So these three reasons have us all wanting to give unsolicited advice, but who really wants unsolicited advice? Anybody you know? No. People don't want it. You don't want it. So what are we doing with this whole unsolicited advice thing? You know, I have a friend who is a brilliant Hall of Fame speaker. And when he was giving a keynote recently at a big event that was full of influencers and other speakers, he killed it. He did such a great job on the stage, and right afterwards, several people from the audience, also professional speakers, but none of whom were Hall of Fame speakers like my friend, came up to him to offer their advice about how he could improve his presentation. How would you feel in that circumstance? Have you ever been in that circumstance? Think about that for a minute and the human effect that it has when we're offering unsolicited advice. Now, in the title, I called this the surprising cousin to criticism. We don't always see it as criticism because, well, we're coming from the goodness of our own heart. We know that we're right, and we really think that the world would be better if it aligned with our way of seeing things. Even if it's positive, it comes across to others as being criticism, because at some level it's saying, hey, however you've figured out to do this isn't as good as the way I've figured out to do this. You must not be as bright as me. Let me see if I can fill you in on some ways to be awesome and bright like me. See, and that comes across as criticism because now people are feeling less than. It's like I pat you on the head and say, oh, I approve of what you're doing, or here's some things you could do better. It's like I'm here and you're here. What gives me the authority to approve or disapprove of you in the first place? That sets up the discrepancy. And that's why people are feeling criticized. Let me share with you a model that will help us to understand how this works. In this quadrant system that I'm showing you right now, there are two dimensions that overlap. It has to do with feelings and content of where our focus is. You can see in the upper left quadrant, my focus is on how I feel about me. That one I've colored red. On the upper right quadrant, it's how you feel about me. I've colored that one orange. On the lower left quadrant, it's how I feel about you. That one's purple. And then finally in the green quadrant there on the lower right, how you feel about you. When you look at each of these in order, let's look at the first one. The red quadrant, how I feel about me. The problem when we get into this is called self-consciousness. And I'm not talking about a healthy sense of self-awareness. I am talking about that anxious, oh my gosh, am I good enough kind of a focus. Notice the anxiety that brings up. Let's move over to orange. In this quadrant, my focus is on how you feel about me. Do you like me? Do you think I'm good enough, smart enough, cute enough? Do I fit in with you and your group? Welcome back to junior high, people, where we're trying to see how we fit in all the time. This creates insecurity. Notice, now whether it's red or orange, we have the same problem. Anxiety. This creates anxiety. Notice it. Now let's move down to the purple for a minute. Now my focus is on how I feel about you. How I feel about you. This is where parents get stuck all the time because we're constantly, as parents, focused on how we feel about our children and their choices. This is purple, and the pitfall here is criticism. This is why I said that unsolicited advice is the surprising cousin to criticism, because it's in this purple quadrant. Notice it. Even if it's positive, it comes across as criticism. Whether it's red or purple, we run into the same problem, and it's called judgment. It's either that anxious self-judgment of the red, or it's that critical coming across, giving the unsolicited advice of the purple. Either way, it's a judgment problem. So let's go green, shall we? Because this is part of the solution that I wanted to share with you. When we go green, my focus is no longer about me. How I feel is only secondary. My focus is now on how you feel about yourself. And this is powerful because it shifts all of the energy in a way that allows us to have influence. That's why I call this the influence quadrant. When you look at the entire model, you'll see that where our focus is matters. And this becomes part of our solution. In sharing with you the influence quadrant, I know that was a quick overview, but you can get a complete overview of this if you get into the Positivity Powerup course. I spend some time there fleshing it out for you so that you can see it more completely. And I'll tell you at the end of the video how you can get to that. The reason I shared this with you is because the purple quadrant that I shared is where people feel criticized. And when our focus is on how we feel about them, we are likely to give them unsolicited advice. I want to refer back to something I heard from one of my podcast guests. Rick DeBruhl is a communications specialist. He's been a broadcaster for ESPN for a lot of years now, I think 20 years or more, in automotive sports. And as I was interviewing Rick, he said this. He says, Paul, you know, we need to just assume that we don't have all of the information. And I thought it was brilliant. And so I repeated that a little later in the podcast. I said, earlier, Rick, you said that we shouldn't assume that we have all of the information. And he stopped me. He said, Paul, that's not what I said. I thought I got it. He said, no, you said that we shouldn't assume that we have all of the information. I said we should assume that we don't. Because that puts us in a whole different position. When you assume you don't have all of the information, you're no longer in a position to give advice to anyone, unsolicited advice. When people ask for advice, it's because they trust you to know something that maybe they don't. That's a whole different game. And I think as we offer that and are willing to supply that to people, that's going to be awesome. As far as unsolicited advice, assume that you don't have all of the information. Get yourself into that green quadrant and show up for people in a much more powerful way. This will give you influence. I promised you during the video that I would tell you how to get to the Positivity Powerup. Actually, you know what? Let's shortcut this thing because you can buy it as a standalone product for about $300. but you can get it as part of your membership at Live on Purpose Central. That's the best way to access it. The Influence Quadrant is Module 5 of the Positivity Powerup. Go to Live on Purpose Central, go.liveonpurposecentral.com, and you can connect there to the Positivity Powerup and a score of other resources that are available for you.
Eyes will never let it go.